Okay?
You should wait till they're all back.
Yeah, that is also true, but at least the live ones are back. Welcome to Lunch and Learn. Thank you very much for the sponsors. I believe this is a continued celebration of your son's bar mitzvah. What a party on Sunday night. I'll tell you something that struck me. I was, again, interviewed by someone in America, and I said, sorry, not true, by someone in Eretz Yisrael. And I said, what an amazing thing to see that at this celebration at our community, it was probably 50% our community and 50% Israelis. And it just shows how integrated, number one, they feel. The vast majority of them not religious, came to a religious community. I think it's such a feather in our cap. I think it is so special, it's so amazing. And thank you for sponsoring Lunch and Learn. Hashem should give you huge success in everything you do. Baruch nias, begashmias, shtei shulchanot, bezrat Hashem. And we should continue to prosper in an ever-challenging world. And perhaps, maybe, that should be something we discuss today, because there is so much to talk about on this week's parasha. There's so much to talk about. I've seen one or two very beautiful ideas on this week's parasha. And we'll begin with this. Twice we see that it says Avraham Avinu returns. Right? The first time in this week's parasha, I could leave it out as I wish Michael was here. When does it say Avraham Shav? Twice in this week's parasha. So after Avraham Avinu davens for Sodom, which is anyways a very interesting thing. Avraham is the Amud HaChesed, he's the bastion of kindness. We've talked about this in years gone by. Why is he praying for supreme wickedness? These people were supremely wicked. Why is he praying for them? Okay, that's a different story. We're not going to talk about that now.
He doesn't pray for his son.
Oh, very good. And not only that, but you see towards the end of the parasha, he's willing to sacrifice his son. His own son he kicks out. Ishmael, there's so much to talk about, but we're going to try and stay focused on the one thing that we're talking about over here. After he stands and he prays for Sodom, and he says a very interesting expression. Avraham Avinu says, who am I to speak to you in front of you, Hashem? V'anochi afar va'efer. I'm dust and ash. Many years ago, I think we're going back more than 10 years ago, I mentioned a very, very beautiful Dvar Torah on this. Afar va'efer, dust and ash. What did his children merit in the return for Avraham Avinu saying, I'm but dust and ash? Ash, easy one. Arthur Ashe Stadium, New York. No, nothing to do with tennis. Sorry. Ashes, the ashes of the paraduma. Yeah? Where is dust used? The dust of the floor of the Bet HaMikdash is used in the waters of the Sotah. I can't remember where I saw this. Well over a decade ago, and I said it here, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't go up on YouTube, so you can't even check, so I'm good now. Now you can check. From now on, I have to be careful what I say, right? But Avraham Avinu was saying, I'm dust and ash. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Maral Diskin who says Avraham Avinu was supremely humble. We're going to talk about this in a moment. He was actually saying two things. He was saying, like dust, I never was anything. Dust could be something. Dust, you can plant seeds in dust and it can grow and it can nurture and it can develop things. But it never was anything. Particles of dust always was dust. So Avraham Avinu says, I never was anything. I'm dust. Ash never will be anything. Ash has no nutrient value, has no nutrient quality. You can't grow in it. You can't reconstruct with it. It's just, there's nothing there. Avraham Avinu says, I'm not worthy of standing in front of you. I never was anything. I never will be anything. Says Hashem, in the merit of that unbelievable humility, what I'm going to give you is two mitzvahs. The one where you said dust, I never was anything. We're going to put the dust in the water of the Sotah and we're going to be me'orer on what was. I'll be able to see what happened. If she did something wrong, then it will become clear. When you say, I never will be anything with the ashes, because you can't do anything, we take the ashes of the paraduma and we sprinkle it onto a person who is tameh, and they will be tahor in the future. It says, there's a very beautiful, I think it's the Maradusk if I'm not mistaken, but that's not what we're saying today. It's just a beautiful Dvar Torah, right? Avraham Avinu says, Anochi afar va'efer, I'm dust and ash. And he stands in front of Hashem, unworthy of standing and praying and begging, but Avram takes on Hashem. Is it possible that you're going to destroy? And we know Avram is ultimately unsuccessful in his prayer, correct? Hashem says, no. If there's 10, no, Avraham Avinu goes home. And the pasuk says, if I had it in front of me, I would show it to you. Can you mind to pass me the chumash there? It says, Avram shav limkomo, if I'm not mistaken. All right? Perek Yudches, pasuk. Sorry. Perek Yudchet, pasuk, lamed gimel. Right? The pasuk says, Avraham shav limkomo. Correct? Vayelech Hashem kashakila ladab es Avram. Hashem left after Avram stopped and finished speaking to him. Avraham Sham Limkomo. Avraham Avinu returned to his place. Okay. After the Akedah, we see the same thing as well. Right? Oh, it says Vayoshav Avraham el Na'arav. Avraham returned back to his lads. Why? Because it says Vayom Avraham el Na'arav Shvu lachem poem achama v'ani v'nar nechad ko. Right? Anyone who says the Akedah every day, which we all should, he did it. But what happened at the end of the Akedah? Hashem promised him all goodness for his children, etc. I want to talk about this later. Vayashav Avraham el Na'arav, and Avraham returned to his lads. What do you think? He's going to stay up there all day long? The Akedah didn't happen, or happened as it was supposed to happen. And then what? Avraham Avinu goes home. Of course he does. What does the Torah mean by telling us, and Avraham returned home? So I saw a very, very beautiful idea. And I've seen this story in one of two iterations. I'm not sure which way to take it. I'll say it in one way. But Rabbi Avraham Abish was the Rav of Frankfurt, was known for his incredible humility. He was known as being an extremely, extremely humble man. And he died in 1768. I had to look him up, right? So, a while back. He was a massive, massive Talmid Chacham, and he was extremely humble. And the story takes place like this. I'll say both stories. One of them was, the first story I saw was on his way to Frankfurt to become the Rav. He was staying in an inn. And because of his extreme humility, he slummed it anywhere he could, and he was put together in a room with someone else who was also staying at the inn, and something went missing from the room. And assuming this rabbi was just some beggar or whatever, so he was accused of stealing whatever it was. Right? I can't remember that version of the story, what it was. But the other version of the story was he was already the Rav of Frankfurt. And this is clear. Both stories say the same point. He was the Rav of Frankfurt, and he had gone to try and raise some funds from a very wealthy Jew who was staying in a nearby hotel. And the Rav went to him, and in his incredible humility, he tried to paint the picture of the suffering of this poor family that were going through extremely hard times. And he said to this man, please, if you could find it within yourself to be extremely generous. There's a family desperate for your help, etc., etc. And this person, not fully knowing the stature of the rabbi and knowing who he was, just took him for some measly beggar and kicked him out. But the Rav had entered the hotel suite where this man was staying. And after the rabbi left, it was noticed that he had the silver-tipped cane and it was missing. And he ran after him. And he said, you stole my cane. So I wouldn't give it tzedakah, so you stole something of value? And Rabbi Abish said to him, I promise you I didn't steal your thing. I wouldn't do such a thing. I'm an honorable person. I did not steal from you. I didn't. And the fellow said, I know people like you. You look so honest and you look so unassuming and you look so humble, but really you're a wicked, there's a nasty streak underneath you over there. I really don't like you. And he said to him, I can tell people like you. You know what? I'll squeeze a bit and I'll bet you I'll get the answer. And he did. He started to beat him. They whipped him. He hit him with something. He started, and the fellow, Rabbi Abish, started to beg him, and he said, I beg of you, please don't hit me. I beg of you, I did not steal your cane. I did not take your stuff. I truly didn't take it. And, after some serious mistreatment of this rabbi, he really didn't take anything. So there was nothing to squeeze. There was no need to put pressure on him. He really didn't take anything. And eventually the fellow relented and said, okay, if he was angry, insulted him, beat him, etc. Shortly thereafter, this rabbi had to take the podium. In the first version of the story, it was his going to visit the town, and he was giving a big darush to show the town what he could possibly be as being their rabbi. Incidentally, there's a rabbi coming to Gateshead now this coming week to get a trial at Newcastle at Gateshead to see if he will become their rabbi. Wow. So this Rav Abish was doing this in Frankfurt, a serious community. Or in the second version of the story, it was Shabbat Teshuvah, and he was giving the Shabbat Darush. And hiding his bruises and his marks, he steps up to the podium and he delivers the most eloquent, delicious Divrei Torah with his unbelievable humility and his warm heart. And in the crowd is the fellow who had beaten this rabbi. And he is mortified. He's so embarrassed. He's accused him of stealing. He mistreated him. Either he didn't give him tzedakah or he accused him of stealing his cane, whatever it may be. But he beat this rabbi. And here is the rabbi who is the rabbi of the community, or attempting to be the rabbi of this huge Frankfurt am Main. And when everyone, when the rabbi finishes his big darush, everyone comes up to him and they give him Chazak Baruch, or in Frankfurt, they definitely did that right. You know, they say shkoyach, they come over to him and shake his hand. This man was in line. Now, if I could pause the story here and say, what do you think happened next? The rabbi gets to show his true colors, who he really is, and who this fellow who savagely beat him and disgustingly treated him and maligned him. And do you know what the rabbi did? This just tells you who he was as a character. As the next person in line was this wealthy guy, Rav Avish looked at him and he said, please, please, I promise you, I really didn't steal your cane. That's what he said to him. Which, by the way, I think so remarkably reflects the humility of who he was. Instead of standing up and saying, how dare you? Or now that his true identity is revealed, he was back in his own little self of, I'm just a person and this guy accused me, that's none of my business. Maybe what the Torah is teaching us about Avraham Avinu in a very subtle way, and I saw this brought down and I found it so wonderful. Maybe Avraham Avinu, whether he's the big Rav of the town, or he's the Nebuch being beaten, he's the same Avraham Avinu. Whether he stood in front of Hashem, declaring that he's nothing, and ultimately failing, Avraham Shavlim Komo, he goes back to the equilibrium of who he was, an Amud HaChesed of a person who is here with Batachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just following his way. Or whether he was just supremely successful. An angel came to see him. Avraham was asked by God to go. The angel of the Akedah, according to the Avraham HaKadosh, came and said to him, look at how perfect I am. You know the beautiful idea of Mimeni? I've said that also a few years ago. The very big question on the Akedah. How can Hashem ask Avraham to go, but yet send an emissary and ask him to stop? Imagine that, God himself came and asked you to do something, and then a messenger came and said, oh, by the way, don't do it. God said, don't do it. You would never stop. You'd say, no, God came and asked me. Why did Hashem send an angel? So in a very, very complicated idea, but in very, very short, every single thing you do and I do in this world has a spiritual reality. Of that, there is no doubt. And they say, Chazal tell us, that when a person goes to Shamayim, what will accompany you, what will come out to greet you, are every word of prayer that you said, every word of Torah that you engaged in, every act of chesed that you did, every penny of tzedakah that you gave, every step that you engaged in walking to and from shul, and walking to and from and being kind, every single thing. Now, the more perfect your act, the more perfect the angel. We also know that Rahman al-Islam, if somebody does something half-heartedly, it's still a mitzvah, there's no question about it, but it's less than a complete version of what the spiritual reality of that act should be. So Hashem sent the angel of the Akedah to Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu understood that he would have to sacrifice his child. When Hashem said to him, I never meant that, Avraham Avinu would say, it's still part of the test, I'm still going to do it. What did he do? Haraya, when the angel came, Avraham Avinu said, let me just make a nick, let me at least just release some blood, let me do something, because Hashem told me to do it. It says, you didn't withhold your child. How do I know this? Many. I think, as the Avraham HaKadosh says, look at me. You know what I am? I am the angel created by the mitzvah of the Akedah. And look at me, I'm perfect, I'm complete. If you do anything more, it's terrible. You did it perfectly. Avraham Avinu saw a spiritual reality of his challenge. His challenge, by the way, which Rav Dessler tells us, you and me today are still living off that zechus. Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, we're living off that. We knock on every day. When we come to Amidah, we say, Hashem, I'm the great grandson of... There's a dividend in the bank for me. All I have to do is come and ask for it. We say the Akedah every single day for this reason. Avraham Avinu's just done the Akedah. Vayashav Avraham. He also, in the same way as he returned from failing at praying for Sodom, he also comes and returns. He's the same big rabbi on the podium, I didn't steal your cane, as the guy being beaten in the street. And it's something, so he returns steadfast in his faith, constant in his character, the same person always, and it's an amazing thing. And I think there's a tremendous amount for us to learn from here. I want to just segue a little bit into a Ramban that I saw in a similar vein. Because I'm doing a series now on Chovot HaLevavot, Shar HaBitachon. Brilliant. It's absolute must. Every single person needs to go through this Sefer and constantly revisit it, because our challenge is moment to moment. It's daily. It's all the time. To live with bitachon means to live with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I know I got a lot of feedback from the podcast that I did in America recently, in which I asked a famous question: what would you rather have? Unlimited resources? So I said a check for $1 billion. Probably not enough in today's world, right? But okay. Would you want unlimited money, resources, or to have complete and utter bitachon in Hashem? What would you rather have?
The money.
Oh.
You always ask what you don't have.
Sorry? Ladies and gentlemen, you see what I'm up against over here? I hope you heard that answer. You always ask what you don't have.
I didn't hear what
Benji said. He said, I'll ask for the money, because you always want what you don't have. You ask what you don't have. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Right? And I was accused of asking a trick question by some Americans, by the way. Right? Oh, it's not fair. It's a trick question.
the interview.
The interview also said it. Right? He was tough. He was good. I like him a lot. I can't wait. They've called me back. Right? I think they want their money back. I don't. Right? I don't get paid for doing it. Okay? But it's not a trick question at all. We live in a world where the illusion of power, the illusion of grandeur is so powerful that we have to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is controlling everything. The only true area where we are our own, the only in Bechira Chofshit is our moral choices. When I attempt to do something and I'm choosing in my head because I think it's the right thing to do, and I say, I'm gonna go to shul because it's the right thing to do. By the way, the minute you set off for shul, nobody says you're gonna get there. You get there by the grace of God. You have to agree that, and I have to agree that. That there's no doubt whatsoever. But your decision to choose to pull your weary bones out of bed and go to shul, that was your decision. That moral choice, that area in your brain of I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do, that choice. And the subsequent efforts there were coming from that decision to choose, that area is you, and uniquely you. And if you look in the Sifrei Machshava, you'll see that this is the only area where you exist. And let's develop this a little bit. A person attempts to do something good. I had this question recently from a Talmud of mine who now lives abroad. They did something extraordinary. Once or twice in my rabbi career, it's the most beautiful thing. I get privy to private information when people are making choices, why they do certain things. They take on a Kabbalah. I've got a story about this in a minute, 2 stories. It's the most beautiful thing. People say, Rabbi, please don't tell anybody. I cannot tell you how many of these stories I have, and I'm going to take with me to my grave. I won't say a word. But I'm so immensely proud to know people who have made unbelievable sacrifice, silent sacrifice that no one will ever find out about, for the good of someone else. I recently found out about somebody who made an extraordinary sacrifice to make sure that somebody else's life was better. And immediately thereafter, their life took a turn for the worse. And they came to me and they said, Rabbi, is Hashem punishing me? Is this a punishment? And you should know the Chovot HaLevavot talks about this in Shara B'tachon. Why is it that we sometimes do what is amazing and are subsequently challenged? And by the way, you see it in this week's Parsha. Well, not exactly in this week's Parsha, maybe at the beginning of next week's Parsha. Avraham Avinu, I just described the Akedah in a little bit, went and did what was so counterintuitive to who his DNA was. He was the bastion of kindness. To lift a finger and to try and be savage towards your own flesh and blood, they beggars belief. And Avraham did it, so to speak, was preparing to do it, was ready to do it.
Especially because Abla won't go in.
100%. And then what's his reward if we crunch it down in a very crude fashion? What happens? The Satan tells Sarah the story and Sarah dies. Like, what? You know, like this Zeschari, I mean, it's unbelievable. What's going on over here? So, I want to tell you a story. I actually want to tell you 2 stories. Both of them are remarkable. And both of them I've never said here before. I'm glad you came to me. Sorry?
Or just done.
To lunch and learn. To lunch and learn, to you as my beloved lunch and learn group, right? Of which I apologize, I'm not here next week. I told you my grandson's Pidyon Haben next week. But I think there's an extra luncheon on a Tuesday from visiting people, so it's going to be Tuesday instead of Thursday next week. And I encourage you to join visiting people coming from, I don't remember who it was.
I want to hear you sing with you.
I'm not here for the concert either. All right, thank you very much. I would have loved to have sung. And
Josh can say
Josh will absolutely take my place, no problem. Yes, and give the shir also next week. Why not? It's always fun, right? So I'm sorry I'm missing the concert, but please try and attend for the interim luncheon on Tuesday of next week. But, and again, I apologize not being here, but the story goes like this. There was a Rav, and I'm going to tell you how I know the story also, which is pretty cool, right? There's a Rav who I believe lives in Bnei Brak, who went up north in Eretz Yisrael to take his kids kayaking, right? And he went to this place up north, and he rents these kayaks, and he kayaks wherever it was, and it was gorgeous and fantastic. But what an Israeli story, what a warm story, that the owner of this kayak place gets chatting to this bearded rabbi with his payas and tzitzis children in the water there, right? And the rabbi asked him in casual conversation, how's business, how long have you lived here, etc. And it transpires in the conversation that this kayak place is open on Shabbat. And the rabbi says to him, Lo yachol liot. Lo yachol liot. Ani yodea she'ata chiloni. I know that you're not religious, and I know that you weren't brought up in a religious environment. He'd already told him, his parents knew nothing from Torah, etc. He says, but Shabbat is Kodesh. It was just hurting him. And the fellow who owned the kayak place was a warm Sephardi Jew, right? And he had respect for the rabbi, he had respect for the Torah. And he said to him, you ask it. And the rabbi asked him, talk about Israeli chutzpah. He says to him, do me a favor, close your business on Shabbat. And the fellow looked at him and said, have you lost your mind? He said, Sunday to Friday, I'm virtually quiet. There's like the odd occasion I get some corporate group come or whatever, right? Sunday is a working day and everyone works. Shabbat is my only day where I get business. The fact that I'm afloat is because of Shabbat. And then the rabbi said to him, 1 second, you know who one of the greatest rabbis alive today is? Back then? Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He says, you know what? I'll get you into Reb Chaim Kanievsky. If the Gadol Hador gives you a bracha, that you will be enormously successful, materially, with money. If you close on Shabbat, will you close on Shabbat? My fellow says, don't do this to me. And he basically said, okay. This fellow leaves the north with this guy's phone number, goes to Bnei Brak, gets an appointment with Reb Chaim Kanievsky, and the next thing we know, this Chiloni Jew from the north of Israel is down there sitting in front of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky takes his hands and he says to him, I give you a haftacha. This is pretty wild. He says, I give you a promise. You can ask how Reb Chaim can do this. That's another discussion for another time. He says, I give you a haftacha. If you close your business on Lema'an HaShabbat, Lichvod HaShabbat, you will see physically, not only spiritual reward, which is of enormity, but you physically will see an exceptional material return in this world. You will see inordinate success, huge success, success you've never seen before. How long have you been in business for? And the guy says, 30 years. He says, yes, more than that. The fellow sees Reb Chaim Kanievsky talk like this. He goes, okay, fine, deal, done, no problem. Shakes hands, goes back to the north, and he closes his business on Shabbos. He really does. He sticks by it. It's amazing.
Good timing.
It's yours, huh?
It's not mine.
Oh.
I'm
looking for it.
Thank you. Talk about effect, right? He closes his business and Hashem calls, right? So, it's like someone's mobile phone in like some bag over there, Gavaldi. Okay, so the next 9 months, by the way, is sheer hell for this guy. Ad kedei kach, that his business goes down and down and down, and he does not see any way that he's going to survive, that he's thinking about foreclosing on his house. He calls back the rabbi who took him to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Now, the reason why I know this story is because I heard it from someone who was in Reb Chaim Kanievsky's when he came back. He called him up and he said, I can't survive. I've done what I was told to do. I was promised unbelievable wealth, and look where I am. It's not happening. He said, let's go back to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. You have to ask him your questions. So they do. This rabbi and this guy from the north, the kayak place, go back to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, and I know this from a first-hand witness who was in Reb Chaim Kanievsky's when they came, and they said, how am I going to live? I physically can't survive. And he said what happened next was amazing. Reb Chaim Kanievsky took this man's hand in his hand and he smiled at him. And he said to him, you want to know why after doing something really good, things got really tough for you? He said, you have to understand this. This is a yesod. You have to understand this. He said, who says in the first place that you even have the zechut to merit this bounty that Hashem was going to give you? Who says you deserve it? Do all of us standing in front of Hashem, we're such great people, we deserve the world? We ask for the world. Right? Baruch Aleinu, Refaenu, Shma Kolenu, Hashivenu. We ask for everything. We do. Do we deserve it? We're such perfect Jews. Says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, let me explain to you how Hashem works. You have to understand, sitting in Shamayim, Hashem is the Kol Yachol, and Od Milvado. Every single fiber of existence is in His hands, every second of every moment of every day. There isn't a blade of grass that grows without His direct involvement. Mechadesh b'chol yom tuva ma'aseh bereshit. You have to understand that. And He wants to give you something. He is the Kol Yachol, and He is the Makor of all good. How is He going to give it to you? In the best way possible or the worst way possible? This is how Hashem gives you more than you deserve. You take on something, you try and do something good, and very often, as soon as you've taken on to do something good, life gets tough. You get challenged. And the reason why you get this challenge is so that Hashem can give you more good. And give you more, and you may even need it in the long run. He said, I'm telling you, you did something extraordinary. You made a public Kiddush Hashem, your whole neighborhood, all your neighbor, everyone knows about it, right? It's muzar, it's crazy, this guy's closing for Shabbat, unbelievable. It's only going to get better for you. But Hashem is testing you, so hold tight. And he went back from Chaim Kanievsky and he said, okay, I'll hold tight. You should know the rabbi got a call a few months later. I don't know the exact details, all I know is some massive corporation came in for him. They bought him out. They made him a value share partner in something. He made more in one fell swoop than he ever made in his entire life, and the dividends keep on paying him. He said, do you know what he does now, this guy from the north? He goes around Israel telling other Chilonim to keep Shabbat. That's his job. That's what he does. And he says, Mimeni, look at me. This is what I do. I saw a beautiful, beautiful Ramban. A beautiful Ramban. If I had it, I would read it to you open. I don't. Do you have it? Ramban, Bereshis? It should be right there. Yeah, the next to it is there. The blue one, yeah, I think so. I believe so. Yeah? The Ramban asks a brilliant question, and he asks it on Avraham Avinu. Avraham is given a reward, thank you so much, for, appreciate it, Josh, right? Avraham Avinu is promised. The good job is, thanks for coming, you can catch the last bits on YouTube, it'll be up soon, please God, all right? Thank you. Remember to like and subscribe, thank you so much, right? But what happens, Avraham Avinu is promised, Ki barecha varechecha, for doing the Akedah, barecha varechecha, v'harbe arbe et zaracha kechochvei hashamayim. I'm going to give you a lot of children. Your family is going to be prominent. Asks the Ramban a brilliant question. Already previously, Avraham had been told, Ki beyitzchak yikari lechazara, you're going to have a nation. You're going to have it. Right? Says the words of the Ramban, exactly the words. Gam mitchila hivtichu ki yarbe et zaro kechochvei hashamayim. He's already been promised this promise. So what's going on over here? Says the Ramban, I want to tell you something. After doing something good, giving a tremendous sacrifice, and then being challenged in return, and staying with this equilibrium of this humble Vayachshav Avraham Lemkaim, the same Avraham who was before success and after success and before failure and after failure, the same Avraham back in his just dedication, willing to serve Hashem. Now, Ata Hosiflo, says the Ramban, now that he stood this test, he gets more. Exactly what I was trying to say before. Hashem says to me, because, be medayik the words of the pasuk, because you did this amazing thing, Nishba b'shma gadol, says the Rambam, Hashem swore by His holy name, sheyirash zaro et shar oyevav. So applicable for today. We will prevail against the cause of genocide. You may have had children. The promise was to have children. Who says they won't die? Who says they won't be swallowed up by a foreign culture? Who says they won't be absolutely decimated? Or they'll fall to an enemy and not rise again? Now the promise is, this is a complete promise. Look at this. That that we will prevail at the end of days. We did good. We got challenged. We stood by that challenge. The goodness is even greater. I want to finish with one story, and it is such an incredible yesod in who we are and how we have to handle ourselves in public. I'll tell you just one story. This is from 2017, and I have not said this story here before, and it's with a woman whose name is Irina Dislevsky. If you guessed she's Russian, you'd be right. Okay? Sorry? Could be, yeah. She could be Ukrainian, it's true, right? But in Russia, there's a weird rule that if you finish university and you've done your degree, you have to pick up your diploma. If you don't pick up your diploma, you're not there for the day that they're handing out the degrees, you lose it all, right? So Russian, right? So, we know this story because she had a she'ela for Rabbi Lazar, the chief rabbi of Russia, because she did 7 years of medical school. Check this out, 7 years of medical school, and, you're close, the day that she was asked to come and pick up her diploma turns out to be Shavuot, right? He said, Kippur, you're all right, right? You're on the right lines, yeah? Now, she was recently chozeret b'tshuva. She had recently made a commitment to try and be a frum, God-fearing, Torah-observant woman, and now she's looking for a way to pick up her diploma on Shavuot. So she called the chief rabbi of Russia. How cool is this? And he said to her, no problem. What you do is you rent a hotel room near where the university campus thing is going to be. I don't know if they actually did the diploma handing out, run aboard thing. I don't know if they do that even in Russia. But wherever that was going to be, he said, no problem. Rent a hotel room nearby. Walk to there on Yom Tov. Don't worry about it. You can absolutely pick up your diploma on Yom Tov. She said, yes, Rabbi, but part of the ceremony is that you have to sign for your diploma to secure receipt, and that goes on your record. What can I do about that? And he stopped and he paused and he thought and he said, I don't see I don't see a way around that. Leave it with me. He came back to her and he said, if you absolutely have to sign, then halachically you can't do it. And she thought to herself, wow, this is my Akedah moment.
Medical?
She's a medical. No, you can. But it's not pikuach. You're right. It's not pikuach nefesh at that point. I like how you're thinking, Michael.
I'm trying.
I hear you.
She's going to sign in blood.
Sorry, sign in blood. Or all these. Yeah. Anyhow, the bottom line is she received her psak from the rabbi, no less the chief rabbi of Russia, Rabbi Lazar, who said, "I can't see a way to make it mutar for you to sign for it. I'm afraid." And she looked at her life and she said, here's 7 years of medical school going up in smoke as I don't receive my diploma because I'm now a shomer Torah mitzvot. And she had to think about it and she made the decision wholeheartedly. Okay, so I don't get my diploma. After Shavuot, she called up the Ministry of Education and she tried to plead her case. It was classic Russia, falls on deaf ears, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Okay? Listen to this. Fast forward to Chanukah. Okay? On Chanukah, there's a huge event that takes place in the Kremlin, and Rabbi Bar Lazar lights a menorah in the Kremlin. President Putin is normally in attendance, and this year he was as well. And he lit the Hanukkah candles, and he gave a small speech in Russian talking about the dedication of the Chashmona'im, talking about self-sacrifice, talking about what Mesirut Nefesh looks like, how they were Moser Nefesh to uphold Yahadut. They were Moser Nefesh to uphold all of Judaism. And he said, I have a modern day story of somebody who was Moser Nefesh for religion, and it's the story of Irina Dislevsky. She studied in medical school 7 years, and she wouldn't pick up a pen and sign because it was a holy day, and to this day she's not recognized as a doctor. And he left that story. President Putin called Rabbi Bar Lazar and said, is that true? Were you just saying a story, or was it really true? He said, it's absolutely true. He says, give me her name, please. Give me more information on her. He said, of course, I'll call you back. He gave the information to President Putin. President Putin called up Irina Dislevsky, and he says, I would like you to come to the Kremlin, please. I have something for you. He called the Ministry of Education, and he said, I want her diploma, and I want it on my desk, and I want it now. I think when Putin does things like that, he kind of gets his way. I think so, right? The following day, Irina Zyslewski comes to the Kremlin and she picks up her diploma and she thanks President Putin for it. I think what's the most lovely part of this whole story is once she received it, she realized where a frum Jew really should be. And she said, Shalom al Yisrael. I don't think she announced this too loudly, but she immigrated to Eretz Yisrael with her diploma. She's now the assistant director of brain surgery in Shari Tzedek Hospital in Yerushalayim. I think it's magnificent to see how people stand up to that which is right. Yes, we're going to be challenged. And it's true, the challenge will define us. According to the Ramban, the fact that we get challenged. But we have Avraham Shavlim Koma. We, the Bnei Avraham, can come back to who we are. Successful or challenged doesn't make a difference. Here we are at one with Hashem. We will see huge success, and we have to know that Hashem is protecting us with these challenges so that we can receive perhaps even more success. And until that time that we see the ultimate reward, we have to strengthen one another, to be strong, to stay by it, and in Mitzvah Hashem we will be witness the greatest gift of them all. Thank you so much for coming.